Welcome to episode 49 of the Breakthrough Brand podcast. Today I'm chatting with Callie Ammons all about boundaries, burnout, self-care as entrepreneurs, how we can live intentionally, very cool Enneagram stuff that I cannot wait for you to hear, and so much more. So you are in for a treat today. Let's dive in. Hey guys, it's Elizabeth McCravey, and you're listening to the Breakthrough Brand podcast. Each week, I'll bring you workshop-style trainings that teach you how to stand out online, design success from the inside out, and create a breakthrough business. It's time to turn viewers into raving fans and design the business and life of your dreams. I'm so excited you're here. Welcome, you guys. Thank you for being here. I'm Elizabeth McCravey, your host, and I'm so excited to play this interview for you guys that I did with Callie Ammons. So I want to tell you a little bit about Callie first. So she is an Enneagram life coach, and we actually are talking about Enneagram stuff, like pulling that in throughout this episode. And we're actually going to go through and tell you self-care tips based on your Enneagram type, which is pretty cool stuff. So she and her husband live in Northwest Arkansas, and we actually have been married almost the exact amount of time me and Callie have to both of our spouses. I think we're like 2 or 3 weeks apart and when we got married, which is pretty fun. She is a Christian. She loves Jesus, and she just brings so much joy to every conversation. I actually was interviewed on her podcast right before we did this interview, which you will hear at another date. That's a really fun one. But we just got to hang out for almost 3 hours chatting, and I could just keep chatting with her because she has so much wisdom, so much like fun stuff to offer and talk about, and great ideas. So I cannot wait for you guys to hear this episode. We're going to start having on this podcast an interview every now and then. I'm not about to become an all interview show, but I'm going to bring on guests like Callie and like Jenna, who you've already heard as an interviewee if you've been listening to the show for a while. So we bring on people like them that I know have so much value to offer you guys and have great answers to questions I want to ask. So let's play that episode now. Hello, Callie. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so we just talked for about an hour on your show. So it feels like really we're just continuing a conversation, only now I get to interview you, which I'm so excited about.
I know. This is going to be good.
Yes. So, okay, to start though, I would love for you to tell everyone a little bit about you, where you're from, about you and your husband, and what you do in your business.
Yeah. So seriously, thank you so much for interviewing me on your podcast. This is so fun that we're getting to talk for 2 hours straight.
Yes, so fun.
So my name is Callie Ammons and my husband is Kramer. We live in Northwest Arkansas. We actually just moved here a year ago. Before that, we were living in Kansas. Both of us were born and raised there. And we literally just had an urge to move somewhere new. We're like, let's just go for it. And we were in a place with our careers that we were able to do that. So we picked Arkansas, and people are like, why would you choose that place? I don't know if you've ever been here, Elizabeth, but It's so beautiful. Like there's hiking, fishing. It's not too cold here. It's just such a really fun area that we love. So we live in Northwest Arkansas. We're absolutely loving it. And I am an Enneagram life coach. So my business is run completely online. I'm so thankful for the internet. And I coach women. I'm also a podcaster, which you were just on my podcast, and then I write and speak as well. So there's a lot to my business, but to sum it up, I'm an Enneagram life coach.
Yes, and you do so much cool stuff. And you know, everyone who's listening knows I love life coaching as an industry, and you do so well with everything you do in your podcast and all of that. And you guys need to check out her podcast too. And so I've really enjoyed listening to it lately.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. Yeah. And you'll have to listen to the episode that Elizabeth is on because we talked about her being a type 6. I don't know which one of us will release our podcast first, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, maybe around the same time. Yeah. So one thing I really wanted to dive into with you, because you're the perfect person to talk to about this, is thinking about self-care for us as women, business owners, like how, you know, both of us, we work independently at home, the whole laptop lifestyle type of situation. But then like, because of that, there's like less boundaries with work. It can be hard to do self-care. We don't have like in the 9-to-5 realm where work shuts off because it's now 5:00 or 5:30 or wherever. So I cannot wait to hear you share all this, but walking through self-care ideas based on each Enneagram type, since we know that everyone is going to need different kinds of self-care. And that's a great way to help us identify which ones we need.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be fun to dig into. And I think for overall, depending on what type you are, maybe you're listening, you're like, I have no idea what my Enneagram type is. I think we could all agree that self-care is important. And at some point, if we don't stop and slow down, we're going to burn out. And that's actually hard for me to say as an Enneagram type 3. I love working. And when people would tell me to rest or you need to take the entire weekend off, honestly would get mad when people would say that, because I'm like, I love working. My job literally lights me on fire. I just feel so alive when I work. And so I really struggled with this balance of how do I take time off? I know that it's important, but I don't feel like it is because working is so fun. And then also, if I'm not physically working on my business, I don't feel like my business is growing, which isn't a good place to have your business at. You need to get to a point where it can grow without you being hands-on. So I remember when a big turning point for me, I was telling my business coach, once I make X amount, I'll stop working after 5 o'clock. And she was like, Callie, do you hear yourself? And she repeated me back. She was like, that is a terrible business to build where you feel like you have to work on it all the time. It's not sustainable. You're going to hit burnout and it's never going to be enough. She's like, when you hit that X amount of dollars, you're going to have a new goal, new ambition, and it's just going to continue. And that was really eye-opening for me. At first, that was hard for me to hear it, but that's why I love having a coach or mentors who can speak life into you when you're kind of blind to something you're doing. But when she said that, I was like, okay, that's so true. I can't wait until I have kids and I decide to shut it down. That's not fair to my husband or who I am today. And there's a better way. So that's kind of just behind the scenes of my story and why I decided to start becoming more aware of this. But we'll just go through all 9 types if you're good with that. And I'll give a tip for each one. Okay.
Yeah. Wait, real quick. I just thought about this though. To start, if someone doesn't know what the Enneagram is, I feel like I'm assuming everyone knows, but then I'm like, wait, that's not a good assumption. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Quick. Yeah, there's definitely people even on my podcast that didn't know what it is. So it's all good if you don't. So the Enneagram just means a 9-point graph. It sounds so fancy. People are like, the angiogram, what is it? I'm like, Enneagram. So it's 9 points on a graph and it's a personality assessment, kind of like a test. And there's 9 different types. And you might hear that and be like, wait, how are there only 9 different types of people? Well, if you think about going to Lowe's and you're like, I'm going to go paint my house blue. Hi, can I please get the color blue? They're going to say, cool, what shade do you want? There's a million different blues. Yeah. And that's how the Enneagram is. There's 9 types, but we're all so complex. And so when you hear 9 numbers, that freaks people out. There's so many different shades within each number. And so it's a personality system that helps you understand yourself. And what I love about the Enneagram is it focuses more on your internal world and why you do what you do, rather than just your external behavior. So even when Elizabeth and I were talking just on my podcast, her and I have a lot of similarities. Things on the outside, we look similar. We're business women. We're pretty high driven. We're both married. We both been married for 4.5 years and we look similar, but we're different on the inside and we process through information very differently because of our Enneagram types. So that's what the Enneagram is. It helps us grow in a deeper self-awareness so that we can change our psychology and also spirituality.
Oh, I love that. And I love the paint example. That's such a good way to put it, that there's different shades. Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
It's so complex. It's really interesting because I even have a friend that's a type 3. So we're the same type, but when you get to talking to us, we're so different. Yeah. We're still so different.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So let's dive in. I guess we can just start with number 1 of the different ways for self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. So the number 1 is called, or the type 1 is the perfectionist, is their official name. So these are the type of people that love to-do lists. They're highly driven and they want to do things with excellence. I really admire these people. My word of the year is excellence. So I'm trying to access some more type 1 in me. But with this, they can tend to overwork. They have a characteristic of being a workaholic as well. And so one of the best ways for a type 1 to really practice self-care is to find something creative that they enjoy doing that's not associated with work. So type 1s often get really caught up in the task that they do, and they forget about their own passions and bringing out their creativity because they're trying to take care of all the things, whether it's personally or professionally. So doing something like painting or working with their hands or engaging their mind in a different way than they normally would is huge for self-care. And ones love this because they're still getting to be active and engage themselves. It's not like, oh, go sit on the couch all day. Like that sounds terrible to them, but they get to actually do something with their mind and hands. And this refuels them because they're doing something that they enjoy.
I like that. And that makes so much sense because I actually know a lot of fellow graphic designers who are type ones and are very creative. But then what you're saying of like doing something creative, but that is not related directly to like what you're doing in your business of making money, like that makes sense to me so huge. So yes, painting, creativity. I love that.
Yeah. Drawing, like woodworking, anything.
Yeah. So what about type 2s then?
Yep. Type 2 is the helper. So these people are super hospitable. They are the friends that show up for anything. They just love people. They love serving and they're so good at it. But they can tend to overserve that they never stop to ask like, what's going on with my emotions? What do I need? And they're the type of people that not all the time, but oftentimes struggle with boundaries. So they don't know how to say no to people because they genuinely want to help people. And so it feels like it's going completely against their nature when they say no. So this might be kind of challenging to hear, but the best self-care tip for a type 2 is to just do something for themselves, like not with other people, focus on what they need. And that might be literally go get a massage. Like you're so tense and you need to go spend that money and enjoy it and enjoy taking care of your body in that way. It might be journaling or reading a book, just spending time with themselves and not feeling like they have to advise people or be there for people or show up and serve people, but simply focus on themselves.
Okay, that's good stuff. Yeah, and my sister is actually a type 2, so I feel like I need to like get her to like listen to that audio because what you said about like over serving and being like just like what do you need? What do you need? And less about what they need is very much how she operates. So
right. And it's such a balance, isn't it? Like there is a level where we can take care of ourselves too much and it's like, okay, get up and go do something for other people. But that's why I love these self-care tips for different types because you tell one person to do something and it's not going to refuel them the way it would for someone else.
Yes, so true. Okay, so let's talk about the type 3 then. Your type.
Right.
My husband's type.
Exactly.
A lot of people listening's type.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what used to drive me crazy. Like I shared in the beginning when people would tell me to rest or take a day off. And personally, I only take one day off of work a week and I feel very content with that. I'm not going to say you have to take 2 days off or 3 days. I really believe it's what's best for you. But I take one day off a week. And one of the best things I found for myself and then also my clients who are type 3s is doing something where we can still be active because it sounds miserable to sit down and just like binge watch something. Like I really dislike that. I feel like I'm wasting my life when I do that. And so doing something with your hands or engaging your mind, kind of like the type 1, but just making sure it has nothing to do with your work. So I really like to spend a lot of time journaling. I'll listen to different sermons. So that way my mind is engaged in something apart from my business, but I'm still feeling like I'm growing internally and spiritually. And then I just journal my thoughts. I spend time praying and just kind of do like an in-depth soul check is what I call it. Just really trying to get in tune with my emotions and where my heart is at. And that's been really helpful. Another weird thing that I think for type 3s is deep cleaning, like doing something productive and spending time cleaning out. Do you like doing that too?
No, but my husband loves that. That's like one of his things. And we actually have been hiring a cleaner occasionally now. And he like still wants to do a lot of the cleaning though.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's therapeutic to me as well. And I think it's just because my hands are busy and I zone out and it makes me feel productive. But the whole point of resting is to think about what refuels you, like what energizes you. And so doing those things that bring energy to you, which is weird for some people, but cleaning definitely brings energy to me or to Adam. So it's like, do it. Do those things that bring life to you. And if it's organizing a closet or volunteering somewhere, like just go do those things that are a little bit out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I love that concept for 3s to like be active and that can be rest. Because we're also like, when we think about self-care, it's not just like what you're saying of like, you don't want to sit there and binge watch TV or maybe like take a bath or something traditional, but like, it's really thinking about what rests your soul too.
Yes,
for like,
exactly.
And I can relate to like the active for self-care. as well. Like I know both my husband and I, we like to go on like a hike on Sundays or
Yes,
something like
us
that, a
too.
nice walk. Yeah, which feels very restful even though you're moving a lot. So
Right. I think that's such a good point. And it's just those things that you don't get to do on a daily basis, things that you enjoy. So if you guys don't get to go take long hikes, doing that is something special and just refueling.
yeah, and I also like how you said you only take one day off a week. I think that's interesting because that's like not what a lot of people want to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a battle, I would say, over the past 2 years, like trying to figure out what is healthy, like biblically looking up, like, what do I
Yeah.
believe? But then also culturally, it's very traditional to work Monday through Friday. And so people take the weekend. But I just felt like it was too much off. So I take Saturdays off, like off my phone, off work, everything. And I'm just like very present with Kramer on those days. And then Sunday morning, we go to church. And then it's not a normal work day. It's a deep planning and preparation,
Mm,
usually checking in with my clients. And then sometimes I do like my creative writing on those days. So I'm still working, but it's not like my full force work days. Or if
okay.
I have like deeper cleaning to do, I do that or take care of personal things. But yeah, it's allowed me to feel so much more refreshed for work during the week, like giving myself that permission to
Yes.
prepare on Sunday and do some work.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm the same way. On Sundays, I do my planning for the week on my
Okay.
calendar of scheduling, which I just did a podcast
Awesome.
episode a couple back about that. But I do that Sunday evenings or afternoons. So yeah, I
Yeah.
totally get that. Let's talk
Yeah.
about
It's
fours.
awesome. So they are the individualist or the romantic is their name. And type fours have big feelings and emotions. And that's a good thing. A lot of people feel like it's a terrible thing because, we get told, don't trust your feelings. You need to stuff those. But it's actually a really beautiful thing that fours have. The way that fours get energized, though, is being alone with their feelings and allowing themselves space to kind of process like conversations or just things going on in their life. And the downside to that is fours can tend to isolate themselves in like dark places, literally a dark room or watching too much
Mm,
TV. And so there's a balance of them getting refueled by themselves, but not isolating themselves. So one of the best self-care tips that my clients have found is spending time by themselves, but outside. So they might go on a walk or go on a hike or literally go get a coffee and go sit in their car and put the windows down and spend time by themselves journaling, just going. So it's still bright outside. They're getting the fresh air, but they're alone and not having to exert their energy toward other people, but they get to reflect and kind of process their emotions and feelings. And that is extremely therapeutic for type fours.
that's good. So yeah, so still allowing yourself to be alone, but
Mm-hmm.
going outside of the home, outside of like a dark room or something. Yeah,
Exactly.
that makes a lot of
Exactly.
sense.
And really connecting in nature. Like type fours have this sense of creativity and
Mm,
beauty. And so when they get to connect with God in his nature, they
yeah.
experience so much more growth and health when they do that.
I need to tell my mom that. That's a good tip. She's a type four, so I like
Oh,
that
that's
one.
awesome.
Yeah. I feel like I know everyone in my family's types, even though they might not know their type.
Right? I know.
Actually, they all know their type, but my mom might not. But yeah, that's funny. Okay. Awesome. So that's four. So let's talk about fives.
Yeah, so type fives, this is actually my husband, Kramer's the five,
Okay.
and they are called the investigator or the deep thinker. And so they are so good at processing information. And this is really fascinating. Type fives have a very limited amount of energy compared to all
Mm,
nine types. So you and I, Elizabeth, like as a type six and a type three, we're going to wake up every day with probably like 100% battery life, maybe 90% if we didn't get as much sleep. But Kramer, even if he gets 100% sleep that he needs, he's going to wake up with only 23% left of his battery. And that's something that was like mind blowing when we got married. I didn't realize that he had limited energy. So fives are constantly processing through how much energy is this going to take from me, whatever task it is. And so they feel like they have to hold it up and recharge their energy so that they have the energy to talk with people or go to work and do different things.
interesting.
So it's so fascinating. So the best way for them to refuel is actually by themselves, and they love learning. So the best thing they can do is learn, but I would recommend that they learn a new topic or a new thing, not something where they're diving in about work and different knowledge with whatever they do on a weekly basis, but what's a new hobby or something that you would enjoy learning about, and how can they go take a class or research by themselves where they can be refueled without having to exert energy.
I love that. So learning something alone that's new and not related to work.
Exactly. And literally not having to be with any person or
Yeah,
having to talk with them.
Yes, for the fives, I know that's true. Of like, you really like
Yeah.
to be alone. And I think I'm a wing five, so I can relate to
Okay.
like, I like learning, I like reading and being alone as a way to
Yes.
refuel too. So yeah,
Yes.
that's a good. And as y'all are listening to these, be sure to think too about like the friends in your life, your significant other, spouse, like family, and like how you can also like help maybe do these ways of self-care with them, or like encourage them to do these, all of that.
That's really good. I love that you said or encourage them to do it, because there's nothing more discouraging than telling someone to do something that's not going to refuel them. Like if I go to Kramer as a type 5 and I'm like, let's go have 10 friends over and hang out with them, he's going to be like, this is not a restful day.
Yes. Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, it helps us know of like the people we love who are different than us, like which most people probably are not married to their same type. So like how do we help them in this way too? I love that.
Right.
Yeah, so let's talk about sixes. I'm excited to hear what you say.
Yes, your number. Okay, so the type 6 is the loyalist. And you guys, this is interesting because I'm thinking about how you were just on my podcast and we were talking about times you refuel with people, but also by yourself. So what I have for the type 6 is either a spa day for themselves, taking time for themselves. And this really can depend on the type of work a type 6 does. So if you're around people a lot, being okay with being with yourself and it's a safe place and you can be secure with taking a spa day, or ending the day with a fun game night with friends, because sixes really do desire this deep community and trust with their friends. And that's why they're so loyal to other people, is because that's what they desire in their life. And so creating a space where they can build those relationships with their friends and family and look forward to that, maybe like every weekend where they have that time carved out, is going to be so energizing to them. So I've seen a lot of my clients that are type 6s having a balance of taking time with themselves and not feeling fearful of like being alone or feeling like they have to have people around them, but in confidence in the day with like a game night with friends or going to a movie with a group of friends.
Okay, I love that about sixes though. And I can relate to both of those. So actually when I did my big launch last fall of my new template collection, I did a spa day as like my self-care post-launch.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, I did it with, I had the massage, and then I had, like I did their like champagne and chocolate thing after, where they put you in a room and you like have champagne and chocolate. And then immediately after I went to dinner with friends, like a close group of friends. And that was like my celebration. So it's literally like what you just said of like having so alone.
Funny.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if it resonates. So it looks like we hit it perfect. Awesome.
And that does. And the game night thing too. I know I like smaller groups of people. I'm sure other sixes can relate to that too, but I think that's a great one of like, sometimes it could feel hard because it could feel like a lot of work to like be inviting people over or things like that, but then you end up loving it.
Yeah. Or making it so chill, like we're just going to order pizza and chill and play games, like not making it a big fancy thing. So I'm glad you love it. So the type 7 is called the enthusiast, and they love people, like being around people all the time. That's how they're refueled. They will always be doing fun, adventurous things. And so this kind of seems backward, but one of the best things for a type 7 to do is to take time alone. And this can be hard for them, especially if they're not in a healthy place in life, which I do want to point out, we all are going to go in and out of unhealthy to healthy aspects of our life, right? Like we could all receive bad news today and be walking through a hard season, and it's not a bad thing. It's just something that's challenging. But when a type 7 is healthy, they're able to balance between having fun and being super adventurous, but also taking time alone and getting quiet in their soul. And this is when 7s really experience a lot of freedom and can show up at work even better and be more adventurous, is when they take time to get real with themselves, understanding, you know, what happened this past week? How did I respond? How did I think? And really figuring out, like, do I have any emotions going on right now? What am I feeling? Why do I feel this way? So I think writing. I personally love writing, and I just think it's a great way to reflect. It's really powerful for a type 7 to do. But also reading a book that might be focused on your internal world, or spending time on spiritual matters, maybe an area that they're really wanting to grow in, or an area of weakness, is good for a 7 just to sit with themselves and to think about. And I wouldn't say they have to do this all day long, but definitely carving out a good chunk of time throughout a day to really take time alone to be in their thoughts and figure out who they are and what they're thinking and feeling.
Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Yes. Okay. Those are excellent. I love that. I have a couple of 7 friends, and one of my girlfriends who's a 7, that's her. Like, she likes writing and likes like spiritual or like internal focus, like you said, books.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I know that's hard for 7s too, because you like to be energized by people and all of that. But yeah.
Right. And I found, like, when I have clients that I've worked with that are type 7s, that they actually take the time to do this. It gives them the confidence to hang out with people all the other times, or when they're by themselves, they know that they're carving out that time to have that deep work happen and they're not running from it. So it gives you this confidence of, yeah, this is my time. If you schedule it, this is my time to be real with myself, and now I can confidently spend time with all my friends the rest of the week.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Okay, let's talk about 8s.
Okay, so type 8s are the challenger, and these personality types are incredible. They are so strong, and they love challenges in life or conflict. They don't shy away from it. And this is awesome, because if there's a conflict in my life, I'm like, dang it, I don't want to have to deal with this, but I will because I know I need to, but I don't enjoy an argument, where type 8s really enjoy that. So their personalities tend to be more controlling and just very domineering, and they're incredible leaders. But one of the best ways for them to take care of themselves, as a self-care tip, is releasing control, where they have the freedom to be messy or just to kind of explore. So 2 different ways that I've seen this be super effective is doing crafts, doing something new, like literally go to an art class or go make pottery or do something that's a little outside of your norm, where you're getting to use your hands, you're getting to think creatively, but you're not having to be perfect or in control of that situation. Or doing something adventurous outside. So 8s do like a challenge, and oftentimes when they're challenging their body, their brain has new ideas, a fresh perspective. And so going on a hard hike or doing maybe a really long run or whatever kind of exercise you like, pushing yourself a little bit more, can be really refueling for them.
Okay, those are great. Yeah, so crafts, art classes, pottery, things where they can relax and focus on not perfect. And then, yeah, adventures outside. I love those. Like, everyone can benefit from the craft time too.
Yes, I need to do more of that in my life.
Okay, let's talk about type 9s.
Perfect. Okay, so type 9s, the last one, they are called the peacemakers. So type 9s, their perspective is incredible in life because they really understand every different type and understanding where people come from. That's why they're the peacekeeper. They can keep the peace and they understand, oh, I understand the type 8 side and the type 2. It makes complete sense. But what's bad with this is they spend a lot of their time keeping the peace amongst people. And so the best self-care tip for them is kind of like the type 2, to get away from people and spend time with themselves. The type 9, their deadly sin can be sloth. And that's not laziness, but it's almost like they fell asleep to their passions internally because they focus so much on taking care of everyone else. And so when this happens, they literally don't know what they enjoy anymore. They don't know what their desires are. And so when they take time to do a passion that they enjoy, they start to come alive and remember that they're important and their desires do matter. So this honestly can be different for every type 9. I mean, you might have a type 9 that doesn't know what their passion is. And I would say just explore things, like try crafts, try something active, but doing it alone rather than trying to make someone else happy or feel at peace with what they're doing. That's the biggest thing, is just doing it by yourself is what's going to be powerful, and just explore and do something you enjoy.
I love that. And that encouragement to like do it alone so that you're not trying to like make sure everyone's okay while you're also trying to have self-care for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, those were amazing. I love this. So
Awesome.
Everyone has their self-care thing.
Yes.
And now I want to ask you about some other stuff that also relates heavily to self-care for us as business owners. And the big thing, I'm so curious what you have to say about this, but I know burnout is extremely common in like the online business world that you and I both swim in. And I've actually seen, I'm sure you have too, but many people, specifically women even, like ended up quitting on their businesses after a few years. And it's like, it was, even though it seems like, oh, it was so successful, or it actually just was so successful, but you got burned out and you're like, I'm done with the business thing. So I'm wondering, what are some practical ways for like all of us that we can just avoid the whole situation of getting burned out in our businesses?
Yeah, that's such a good question. It's so sad to see when that happens. I actually heard Christy Wright one time talk about, I think it was a local sandwich place that she loved eating there. And they went out of business because of financial reasons. Like they did not steward their money correctly and now they don't have it. And she was like, more than that, I'm just upset that I don't get to eat my favorite sandwich in Nashville now because I loved eating that and they're out of business. And that story really stuck with me because I'm like, if I don't take care of my business, both internally, where my soul is, but also on a financial standpoint, and what I'm pouring out to the world, I'm going to let someone down. And I think for us, having the bigger picture of, why did you start your business in the first place? Are you trying to help people? Are you inspiring people? Are you helping provide a skill that people don't know how to do, like designing websites? I could not do that. It's understanding your bigger why of why you started your business in the first place. And I think that's important because that empowers us to make the right decisions, like me shutting off work by 5 or 6 o'clock every day, even though in my Enneagram type 3 nature, I would love to work until 11 p.m. because I just enjoy that. But understanding my bigger why, no, people's lives literally depend on how I show up. I believe God is using me and is going to continue to use me the way that I coach people and the work that my podcast is doing. And if I don't take this responsibility seriously, I'm going to burn out. And so I think for all of us, all 9 types, just having that long-term vision of, why am I doing what I'm doing? And why is it so important to make the right decision today? Understanding that empowers us to avoid burnout. And so I think how we just went through the 9 types of the different self-care tips, choosing whether you know your Enneagram type or not, like choosing what refuels me and what am I doing every single week to focus on myself and my business and my home, and what am I doing to protect those pillars in my life? Because if one of them goes crashing down, my life is going to go crashing down.
Oh, yes. Okay. I love that. So yeah, knowing our why, that's so huge. What you said there. And I think too, like with what you said of like how we can end up working forever because we do love our businesses. I do feel like that's a way that gets us burned out, because we go into business. A lot of stories are like, you wanted more freedom. You wanted more time with your family. You wanted to like not be in an office all day. And then yet you end up like making that your reality, but just like with your own business. So it's something to be careful with. And what do you think about this? I feel like there are seasons with that though.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like seasons where you might have to work a little extra and seasons
Yeah.
where you're not. I do agree with that. So I'll give an example. Right now, I'm actually in a season where I'm still working like 10 to 12 hours a day. But let me back up. I take Saturdays off and I have like my essentials, is what I call them in life. So my marriage with Kramer, my spiritual life with God, our finances, how we manage our money, my health, how I eat and how often I work out, and then also our community, how I show up in our community. All five of those pillars I call are my essentials in life. And I plan those five things every single day first before I plan my work, to know that if these five areas in my life are thriving, if I'm in the Word, if I'm spending quality time with my husband, if I'm getting to the gym, then I know my business can thrive. And so that's given me confidence that the days I do work 10 to 12 hours, I don't feel guilty because I'm taking care of those five pillars in my life and I'm functioning from a very healthy place when I work. And so it's very like outside of work, I'm doing those five things and not much else besides sleeping, but I still get good rest. I'm still eating well and I'm taking care of those things. So I think I would agree with you. And there's a season, I should also mention, I don't have kids. So that's a big reason why I feel okay in this season of I'm not raising a family yet. And I do have that time. And I'm in the first really full year of my business. So I am in that groundwork of I have two people helping me. But apart from that, like I'm producing everything that's going out into the world. So it's a season, but those priorities come first.
Everything you just said is so wise. I love that. And especially the essentials thing. Like, is that something you do with your clients, of having them come up with what their essentials are?
Absolutely, I do. So with my clients, like we talk about basically whatever areas they feel stuck in, and I help them understand themselves to explore freedom, whether that's they're struggling financially or they're struggling with their health or getting to the gym. But we do establish that, because when you understand what your priorities are and you actually make them a priority, that's when you start having confidence with how you're spending your time and your money. And is your words matching up to what's actually happening in your life? Like you say this is important, but does your life reflect how important it is? Let's look at your schedule. So I do help them with that.
Okay. So I'm going to work on coming up with what mine are, because I actually think mine would be really similar to yours. So that's something I'm going to think about. And that's such a good idea, though, of what you said, of that we should make sure that every day, or maybe some days you don't hit one. I know, like for me, every day I don't hang out with someone.
Yeah.
But I might
Same.
touch base with someone in some way, but making sure that like we're hitting those in our schedule first, which I think is another reason why starting our day in the Word is such an important thing, or starting your day with time with your spouse or with a workout, all those things, like making that like the first thing that happens, because that's what you're saying, like you're putting your time where your priority is.
Exactly. And I should clarify too, I do not hang out with friends every day, but it's like, okay, how can I pray for them? Or how can I handwrite a note to a friend today to encourage them, or send a quick voice message that's going to take me 30 seconds while I'm getting ready for the day, and just focusing on those areas.
Yeah. Making sure you're connecting with people. That's something for me that would be the way I focus on it. Like right now, we're connecting for like 2 hours today, which that's
absolutely, it's awesome.
I'm staying in tonight and working by choice, which I think that's another thing too, talking about boundaries with our schedule and things of that nature. Like I make my schedule for the whole week on Sunday. And like I chose that tonight, I wanted to have a website design night, because I like designing websites at night, weirdly. And I like
that's awesome.
All out. I watch a movie. And so like, that's like my me time and my like work time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like doing that, but it feels good because I'm like, no, like I'm choosing to do this. This is what I wanted to be working on right now.
Right. I think it's just about being intentional with it, like knowing why you're doing it. Like, am I overworking out of a place of lack of trust with God, or feeling like I'm having to prove something, or I'm obsessed and this business is my identity? Or am I overworking because what you just said, no, it gives me life and I get to watch a movie tonight and create a website.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. I love all that. So be thinking about what your essentials are. That's a takeaway from that one. Okay, another thing I want to ask you. So continue to think about self-care, really, and not getting burned out. So much of what goes on inside of us emotionally comes from what we're putting into our minds from like the internet, our social circles, all of that. And so one question I had for you is like, how do we set boundaries around our time on social media as business owners, which is hard because like for many of us, I know you and I fall into this boat. It's like we get clients or customers from social media. So
Right.
setting boundaries around that, and then also even extending that to like people or other things that could be a negative influence on our hearts.
Yeah, totally. This is such a good question. I'm like, we could spend hours here, but I'll give a quick answer. So I would say the biggest thing and the biggest takeaway that I've implemented in my life, and I'm not perfect at this, but this helps me, is instead of asking myself, like, is this sinful or is this not sinful in life? I ask myself, is this helping me achieve abundance and the person God created me to be? Or is this hindering that growth? And if you're honest with yourself and ask yourself that question, the answer is pretty clear. So I'll give an example. Last night, my husband was doing a little bit extra work. He's a YouTuber, and so he was finishing up editing a video. And while he was doing that, I was mindlessly scrolling Instagram. And I like snapped out of it because I try to ask myself this question all the time. And I was like, is this helping me become the person I want to be? And immediately I was like, no. And then you have the decision in that moment. Am I going to choose discipline right now? Or am I just going to choose what's easy and feels mindless? And I didn't feel like it, but asking myself that question, I didn't want to sit there arguing with myself and be like, yeah, I want to waste my time. So I was empowered in that moment because I asked myself that question and I got up and started doing the dishes. And I'm not saying you have to always be doing something super productive, but when you just are so intentional with why are you putting those things in your mind? It may not be bad. It may not be sinful, but is it great? Is it helping you to the higher purpose? Is it helping you be the woman that you believe God's called you to be? Is it helping you grow in confidence, or are you just consuming other people's lives? And that can be with social media. I ask myself that question with movies I watch or TV, which I don't watch much, but it's just like, why am I putting this in my head? And is it helping me become the person I want to be?
Okay, I love that. Yeah. So asking ourselves, is this helping me be who I want to be? And that's a hard question to ask. I think that's the real problem too, is that we don't want to ask ourselves that question.
Right.
Especially when you're tired after a long day of work and you're like, just like, I just want to do this thing like and chill, which I think that's where it's like, there's a balance of like, it's okay to watch Instagram stories and like unwind in that way, but not when you're giving your whole day or too much hours of your day to that. Yes, I totally agree.
Yes.
I shared a post on Instagram a couple weeks ago or maybe a week ago that was like, I'm going to like literally misquote myself, but it was like, we won't look back at the end of the year and wish we had watched more Instagram stories.
I saw that post. I loved it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but that's like what I feel like that convicts me of like when I do that, thinking like I am literally going to wish I had spoken with my husband now or texted a friend or even watched that show I'm really excited about it fully versus like scrolling while watching.
Yeah, two thoughts on that you said. The first thing is you're like, when we get home after a really long day and we're tired, it can be really hard. And I think understanding that who we are behind closed doors when we are tired, when no one's watching, those decisions is what's shaping who you're becoming. Like who you are in those moments is who you're becoming. And that's a hard truth. But when we become professional interviewers of ourselves, it helps us to grow and actually become the person we really want to be. And if you fail or you mess up, it's okay. It's not like, oh crap, I was scrolling last night, I'm a failure. It's just like, okay, how can I great, I noticed that I was scrolling too much. Now what am I going to do in this moment to change that? And it's that continual growth of awareness. And then the second thing that you were saying is like, who are you watching? Like sometimes it might be good or okay to watch some Instagram stories after a long day, totally. But who are you watching? There's certain people like you. I love consuming your Instagram stories or my friend Tanner because I know there's good spiritual truth in it. It's not a victim mindset. It's really encouraging. There's not this weird comparison. And there's also this empowering mindset for my business. And so choosing to consume things that are helping me, like in that moment of watching your stories, I'd be like, yeah, Elizabeth is helping me become the person I actually want to be because I want to be more like her because of her mindset and the way that she thrives in life. And so you can in confidence say, yeah, watching this on Instagram or watching this show is not hindering me. It's actually helping me.
Okay, I love that. I seriously, the first thing you said, I feel like I need to like, everyone needs to rewind it and I need to like just listen to you like say that on repeat about like, I forget how you said it, but who we are in the moments alone or who we're becoming and all of that. Like I need you to just like walk around and play that in my ears of like
every morning, listen to it. I need to listen to myself too. So I'll listen with you guys.
Yes. That's so helpful. You've given so much great advice. I appreciate you going through all this with me and talking about all this good self-care stuff. To close us out, I want to ask you a quick question. Actually, I'm throwing another question. Like I said, I love life coaches, and there's a lot of life coaches who listen to this podcast or people who are interested in getting into the industry. And I'm wondering what advice you would give to them for their business.
Yeah. So immediately there's like 20 million things coming to my head. I'm like, so many pieces of advice. But first thing is to focus so inwardly, which sounds opposite because it's like, wait, aren't we supposed to serve people? Yes, we are. But as a life coach, you have a huge responsibility of helping people move their life in the direction they want their life to go. That's a really big, awesome responsibility that I take very seriously. But if I'm not focused on being healthy myself internally, how in the world am I going to lead people in order to better their life? And I'm not talking about perfection. Like I'm not a perfect life coach. I will tell you that firsthand. But am I seeking Jesus and working toward becoming healthier and healthier internally? And so I think the things we talked about in this episode, as a life coach, ask yourself, what am I doing to grow in my life? Am I surrounded by the right people? Am I leveling up my life the best way I can today and every single day? And do you have a plan for that? Because you're going to lead so much better when you're becoming healthier, and it's just going to be an overflow, and you're not going to run out of advice. I found that when I'm in the Word and I'm thriving and growing, I can help my clients because we're growing together, and it's not like, oh, I've arrived, let me help you. The second thing then is to focus on serving your clients. You know, there's so many times I've had people that have verbally committed to my coaching saying, yeah, I'm totally going to sign up with you. And I've spent a lot of free time, you could say, in DMs, talking with them and praying over things and just really having these awesome conversations. And then it falls through. And that can be so frustrating in business when it's like, literally the food on the table depends on this income and these different things. But when you lead from a place of serving rather than a scarcity mindset as a life coach, I have just found that, one, God blesses that so much, but people feel so loved and cherished and not like a transaction. So if I lose that client, I don't lose that relationship. It's not a loss. I know that I still invested in them at that time. And maybe in months in advance, they're going to come back to me when the time is right for them. And that can just be really hard, I think, as a coach, because we get excited. We see how we can help people actually experience transformation. But when you keep your eyes on the bigger picture of, I'm going to keep growing inwardly and I'm just going to serve and serve. And if it doesn't turn out the way I thought, I'm going to keep serving and serving and just showing up. You're going to be just blown away at what's going to happen in your own heart, but then also in your business.
Oh, those are good tips. And those really apply too to generally service-based businesses too, of all types, when we're working with people, that we need to also focus on what we're doing internally for ourselves and being relational with all of it more than transactional. I love that. Okay, to close us out, I want to ask you a couple rapid fire questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
You don't have to answer super fast if that does not feel like how your answer would be, but I think these are fun. So the first question, what was your favorite book that you read last year?
I would say Proximity Principle by Ken Coleman.
Oh, okay. I'm going to have to check that out.
Have you read it?
No, but I know who he is. I haven't read that book.
Yeah, it was really good.
Okay. I'm going to look that up. I'll link to that in the show notes too for anyone who wants to check it out. Okay. Your favorite meal to cook or to eat if you don't cook?
Okay. I was going to say I do not enjoy cooking at all. So my answer is like whatever's quickest, like whatever is fast to make to eat. But I do enjoy homemade pizza. Kramer and I have a smoker and we make like this really good pizza with a ton of like veggies on it. It's so good.
Okay. We make homemade pizza too. Like that's our thing that we make.
That's awesome.
We need to have a pizza party.
Yeah. I need to come to Nashville sometime. Let's do it.
Yeah. We like seriously though. That's our thing. We make homemade sauce in the dough and like all kinds of different stuff.
Dang. You guys go all out. I don't do the homemade sauce. That's impressive.
It's really fun. Okay. This question is funny and weird. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
I would say every language. Totally.
Oh, okay.
I'm guessing you wouldn't. Would you say? The dogs?
I would say animals. But I think
Okay.
I think that's such an interesting question because there's arguments for both. I don't know. I thought that's funny. So you would choose language. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. What's your favorite thing about being an Enneagram 3?
I think the energy that threes have. Like, I just feel like I can go all the time, and I really enjoy that.
Yes. That's very true of threes. What about your least favorite thing about being a 3?
This is kind of with the last question, but being a workaholic, like that could be my natural tendency. And it's frustrating that I have to be so intentional with boundaries. Like, I feel like a child. I have to like put limits on myself.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, 3s are awesome. I love those. Okay, this is awesome. Okay, so I feel like I literally have so many more questions I could ask you. We
should have done like a 5-hour interview.
Yeah, or do like a couple multi-part episodes.
Seriously.
But to close us out, tell everyone where they can find you and your podcast and your coaching, all of that.
Yeah. So the best places would be Instagram. I hang out over there a lot, and my name is just Callie Ammons. So search at Callie Ammons. And then my podcast is called the Living Enneagram Podcast, or you can search my name on any podcasting platform.
Yay. And what's your website?
CallieAmmons.com. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here. This was so fun. I'm so excited to literally re-listen to this so I can like relearn everything you just talked. So many great takeaways here.
Oh my goodness. Likewise, I can't wait to re-listen to the episode I just recorded with you. And Elizabeth, you are so awesome. I love your podcast. I love your business. And it is so obvious that Jesus is in you and shines bright in the work that you're doing. And you're seriously an inspiration to me daily on the Instagram.
Gosh,
so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely.